Can you guys see my screen? Perfect. Okay. All right. So like I said, this training is about server pay, and there's several components to it, how it works, how we run reports. There's a lot of details. So we're gonna go step by step. And as I mentioned, I'm going to show mainly with desktop, and then I will jump into where those places are in WebPST. So the first thing I want to talk about is the sales item. Server pay is directly correlated with sales items. And sales items is those items that are on the invoice when you are charging your client. So if we are on desktop and we go set up invoices at edit sales items, and then you have your list of all the sales items that you have in your database, these are the things that go on the invoice window in the job. So like if I go to a job and I go to the invoice window, here are my sales items. So server pay works through this, okay? So how does it work? It does not matter what the sales item is set up to be. It doesn't matter if whatever you charge your client, great. But what matters is what is going to be the amount that the server is going to get when you're charging that sales item to your client. So, for example, let's say you have service fee local, and then you pay your server like $20. You will use this sales item, set it up in the server, and then you will indicate that they should get paid $20. So anytime that you charge your client this sales item and the server that has it assigned to it, it's on their server pay, it will automatically calculate $20. So where does it get set up? It gets set up into setup servers, edited server. You find your server. And then we're going to go down server pay. So here is where you add the sales items that your process server could potentially get paid for. So let's say you have a service fee that is for like nationwide. You're not going to add a nationwide service fee for a server that serves for you locally, because they're not going to serve a nationwide for you. Does that make sense? So you're really only adding sales items that would pertain to that process server. So maybe rush fees or additional address, anything service fee that maybe you charge it on a local setting, so that that process server that is local to you, they could potentially get paid for that. And so you do that by clicking add. When you click add, you get your list of sales items, and then you get to select whichever one. So let's do rush fee again here. And then you get to select here how much the process server would get paid for it. And it could be a fixed amount, or it could be a percentage amount. So if it's by percentage, it's going to be the percentage of what you're charging your client. So for example, let's say the rush fee for you is $50. If you're saying percentage and you do 10% or 15% or 50% or whatever, then it would be 50% of those $50 that you're charging your client. And then if you're not doing, then you can do fixed amount, which obviously it doesn't matter what you're charging your client, the process server would get paid this amount, and that's it. So this is where you build it. And then if you want to come back in here to edit things because you want to remove them, you can do that. You can click remove, hit yes, perfect. And if you want to set up a brand new process server, so let's say, and I believe I have things set up where, so if you go to setup, you go to servers and you go to default new server, you can actually go to server pay and have it and add some sales items that could be automatically there when anytime you add a new process server. That is up to you if you want to do it. So let me actually remove this real quickly so that I can explain how copy server works. So let's say we are adding a brand new process server. And you want this process server to have the same server page set up as another server that is local to you, for example. So you can click copy server. You can find the process server that you want to kind of like have the same, retrieve the same server pay. Hit accept, and then it just brought it over. So all of these sales items that was on that process server with the same, right, like the exact same, it just copied it over. And you can change it. You don't have to leave it like this. You can change your, if anything is like a little bit different, maybe you're paying the server just a bit more for something else, you can do that. But that's how you set it up. So this is how we set up server pay. In WebPSD, if you want to set up server pay, same concept. We're going to go to the server. So we're going to go to contacts. We're going to go to servers. We're going to search for your process server, click edit, and then we're going to go under server options. And then the server pay window is right here. And as you can see, it's exactly the same. You have your fixed amount, your percentage. You can click on here and edit things. So the functionalities are exactly the same. I'm just showing you where to find it. You have the copy server button in here. You can select something and then remove the item. Or if you click add item, here's your list of sales items, which you can do like all here. So here's your list of all your sales items. So the setting it up, exactly the same. So that's how we set up server pay. So after we set up server pay, we have reports that help with the server pay. So we have two main reports. We have the server report classic and we have the server payables report. So I'm going to talk about the server report classic first. So the server report classic, you're going to find it. Let me get out of here for a second. Okay. So on the desktop, on the server report classic, you're going to find it by going into accounting and into server report classic right here. So, oops, sorry, I'm admitting some people. Okay. So on this window, you are going to set up your date range. And this is by the invoice date. So if the job is not invoiced, it is not going to show up on the report. Very important thing to know. That's why it says up here, jobs invoiced. So you're going to set up your date range. By default, it always does the week prior. So as you can see, it is doing from 2/16 through 2/22. So that was last week. So by default, it always does the week prior, thinking that you always paying, obviously, your process servers a week behind. So you can go ahead and change your date range. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to go a little bit far back because this is a test database. But so you do your date range. You can do all of your process servers. You can do local only, maybe your non-locals. You can filter and sort your jobs by job number, by invoice date. This is just all kind of like preferences. And then right here, you can, if you're just doing it for one server, you can do single server and then search for the single process server or, whatever. You can include line items so that it knows what they're getting paid for. That is up to you. So that's the optional part. Now, when we click on print, and I have this print to screen so we can see it on the preview, you're going to see the report. And actually, let me see one that has more to it. Okay. Let me go a little bit more far back. All right, here we go. Okay, perfect. So Right here, you can see the server report. It tells the job numbers that were assigned to that server on that date range, and it got, there's the invoice date. And then right here, it tells me the amount that was allocated to pay the server. In this example, I don't have server pay set up for this process serving company. So therefore, that's why it's saying 0. But if you have like an actual process server, so let me do a single process server, you're gonna see amounts. There you go. So you're gonna see this one, it calculated at $13. Now this one didn't go through. So this is a good report to see and run it so that you can make sure that if there's any jobs that say 0 amount, you go through them and find out why. So like this one from, it didn't calculate a server pay. So let me look at why. So if I go to the job and I'm looking at what I charge, I did service fee nationwide, and the process server doesn't have that. So when I'm looking at my process server and server pay, the process server doesn't have that exact sales item assigned to it. So that's why it didn't calculate it. So those are kind of like how you can check things as to why. And then right at the bottom is going to give you the total amount that you would pay the server. So that's how this report works. Now, we have the server payables report. So the server payables report is a bit different. And the server payables report is only to be used if you are going to record the server payments into the system. So if you don't plan on recording what you're paying to the server into PSD, the server payables report is not going to be a report that you can use. And the reason for that is because it works like the client statement, but in reverse. Rather than the server payables report is a report that tells you what you owe the server. And once you record those payments, then those jobs come off that report because you no longer owe them payment. Same concept with client statement. Client statement is a report where you see what your client owes to you. And when you're recording payments that you receive from your client, it comes off the report because they no longer owe you money. So the exact same thing is just that is what you owe to the server. So if we go to accounting and we go to server payables report, window looks kind of similar. Once again, this day range is by date of jobs invoiced. You have the ability to select to include jobs not invoiced. If let's say you're gonna pay a server and the job is still on hold, or for whatever reason the job has not been invoiced yet, but what, the process server did its job, they went to the address, they attempted it or whatever, it's a bad address, you can include jobs not invoiced, so that way it gives you a list of jobs that assigned to the process server, not invoiced, but it'll tell you how much to pay them. So same thing, you can do all your servers, your local servers only. You can sort this by job number, by invoice date. You can play with all of these options, look at it and see which one you like the best. Whatever setting you like the best, you can always click right here, save default, and that way you don't have to always, every time you come to this window, you don't have to like rearrange things. So let's go ahead and do, now this doesn't have a date range that's like from and to, it just has like up to, and it'll do the week before. So by default, it'll be jobs through this date, and that date is gonna be from a week before, and then you can change it obviously. So right here, I have this report and I have, it'll say what I still owe to the process server. So let me do like a quick comparison between, so you can kind of see, because both reports won't be the same. So let's see, these are from 2020, 22. So let me go 2022 through today. And let me do that server, Anthony. So as you can see, there's a little bit less jobs than on the server payables report because this is just going through jobs that were invoiced from 2/16/2022 through this date. And it's just telling me the jobs that were invoiced through him, what was allocated, and that's it. That's all it's telling me. This one, on the other hand, is not just including these jobs, but it also is going to include any other job prior to that that still has a server pay and that the server didn't get paid for. So that's why it's important to make sure that you record those server payments so that this is always up to date as to what you owe the process server. If you get like a zero here, like a zero amount here, you're not gonna really see that on this one, because if you don't have anything to pay to the server, then it's not a payable. So I do recommend using both for checks and balances, but just know that the server payable report is only going to show the jobs that you actually owe money, not the ones that didn't calculate. Okay. Now, so that's the differences between both reports. And if you don't use this feature, the very first time that you try to do a server payables report and stuff, the system is going to ask you to set a date. And this is going to be the date that you're like, okay, I want the system to calculate payables starting from this day. So it could be, let's say, the beginning of this year, or it could be from, I don't know, October of last year. You can always change the date back, like to a previous date. You cannot change it for. So for example, let's say you decided to start your date as of September of last year, and then you realize, you know what, I don't want to, I want it to just be starting from this year, like January 1st, 2025. Because you already set that date in the past, like the September, it cannot be changed. So I want you to be mindful of that. So those are the two reports. Now let's talk about server pays. Oh, before I do that, I want to show you where to find those reports in WebPSD. So WebPSD, you're gonna go to accounting, you're gonna go to reports, and you're going to find your server report classic right here. As you can see, the window is exactly the same as the desktop. And then you just do your date ranges and stuff. You click print, and then it's going to generate those server reports for you to, print them out. And then the server report, the server payables report, same thing right here. Like I said, all same thing. And then you can hit print and generate those reports. If you save defaults, regardless of whether you do it on WebPSD or if you do it on the desktop, all of those settings will come through in either one. So it's not like, oh, I'm saving defaults and this is just for WebPSD, and it doesn't work like that. It's just, it syncs across, okay? All right, so the next thing is record server payments. So how do we record server payments to be able to use the server payables report? So you want to go to accounting, you want to go to record server payments. And then right here, you're going to start selecting. So you're recording server payments for who? So let's say you're doing one of your servers, and then there it goes. And if you record client payments, this window looks exactly the same as recording client payments. So the only difference is that rather than you recording payments that you received, you're recording payments that you're paying out. You have your date filter right here. You have the ability to include jobs not invoiced if you want, and then click refresh. That's going to be a lot longer of a list. And then pretty much you just record how you pay your server. Was it with a check? Was it with a credit card, direct deposit, other, up to you. How much did you pay the server? So let's say we pay them $200. And then if there's a check number, a transaction number, anything that could identify that payment, it could be, maybe Zelle, maybe a direct deposit transaction number, whatever it was. And then the date of the payment. So once you do that, then you can select which jobs you're paying them for. So as I go through, I'm gonna start, selecting what jobs I'm paying them for until, in this case, obviously, it's gonna be up until, okay, there you go. So there it is. Actually, let's make it even. So this would have been 180. There you go. Okay. So 180, I'm paying all of these jobs. You post that, say yes, and now I posted my payments. Now those jobs are not going to show up on the server payables report anymore because payments were posted. Just like client statements. When you post payments that you receive from your clients, those jobs drop off the client statement. Same thing, it drops off the server payable report. They don't come off the server report classic because the server report classic is not a payables. It doesn't, the server report classic doesn't say whether you pay the server or you didn't. It's just saying these are the jobs that were assigned to the server that were invoiced in this date range, and this is the amount to pay the server. That's all it is. Okay. So keep that in mind. Now, if you want to search for payments, recording server payments in WebPSD, very simple. We're going to go to servers. Actually, not servers, I'm sorry, in accounting. Server pay. And then right up here where it says record server payments, you search for your server. And then it'll do the, actually do refresh. I did record a lot of them. So you're gonna get these, the window's the same. Here you put your check, your amount, everything, just like I explained on the desktop. We make sure to try to design the windows similar so that people can easily go back and forth if they want to. I'm just kind of showing where to locate it. And then like as you check what it is that you're paying them for. Same, everything the same. Okay. So searching for payments, if you want to see maybe if you paid a server or if you didn't, in the desktop, you're going to go to accounting and you're going to go to server payments. And in this window, you can search by a single server. You can search maybe by a check number, transaction number. You can even search by job number to see if there was a payment on that job. So let me do search so like it'll show me pretty much everything. So this one, which I just recorded today, shows when I expanded, it shows all of the jobs that were paid with that check. And it tells me the date, it tells me who the server is. So let's say I wanted to look it up at just the job number alone. So let's say you have the job number, you want to see if you pay the server, then you could have just click on select. Let me see one of these job numbers. I think it was like 2020 44. Okay. Click select, put your job number, and then hit search, and then it will give you just the one result that you're looking for. And then when you expand it, you can see, oh, okay, I did pay him, and it was paid also with this other job numbers or whatever. So you can see all of that. You can also, like I said, you can also do just a single server. So if I look by a single server, remove the job number here, I don't have to do a date range or anything, but now here's the server pays that I've ever done for this process server. And you can expand it and then you can see it. Okay. That's how you search for your server payment if you need to have that information. WebPSD, you search your server payments under the accounting and then server pay. Now, I will say WebPSD is more advanced in searching for server payments because in the desktop, it will only do it by, it is only going to do it by check in a way. So like, as you can see, if I do search, it sorts it by the payment, and then you can expand the payment to see what jobs there were. And then the, what's it called, the date range, it's only like payment date range, that's it. Whereas here in WebPSD, you can do date ranges by the date that you pay it, or maybe by the date the job was closed, maybe by the date that the job was invoiced. So you can search for payments by different date sources, rather than in desktop, you only have the check date paid. That's the only date range that you have. And then you can sort them by, you can sort by job number, you can sort it by the process server, or you can sort it by that transaction. So on the desktop, the equivalent of what the desktop looked like in WebPSD is sorted by check number. It's gonna go by the check date. Let's say, let's do all time. It's gonna be all servers. Let's say, let's do all jobs. And then we search our server pay. And then here it is. So this is how the desktop gets sorted. But let's say I don't want to do it by check number. Let's say I want to do it by server. So I just do server firmware full name, do search, and now it grouped my results by server. So now I have, okay, this one server, and if I expand it here, here are the payments. And then here are the server, oh, these are the payables. So here it'll tell you what is still pending for her. For this process server, which if you run the server payables report, you would see that. But you know, we have it here as well so that you can see, but you can see your server payments right here. And if you expand a server payment, it'll tell you what job number that payment was for. So I recommend playing with WebPSD because like I said, it gives you a little bit more flexibility on sorting and how to pull that information. So we talked about how to record server payments. We talked about how to search for those server payments on both WebPSD and desktop. And that's pretty much the essence of server pay. That's how it works. That's, you know, so your first step, setting up the server with server pay. Your second step, recognizing what reports you're going to use. If you're not going to record your server payments, you can use server pay, the server report classic. Actually, if you're not going to record the server payments in PSD, you have to use the server report classic because the server payables report will never be up to date unless you record those server payments. And then after you do that, you can, like I said, search for any payments, you know, if you need to, for, you know, if your server is questioning, I haven't gotten paid for this, then you can always search for it. And yeah, so I'm going to open the floor and I want to know what questions you guys have because I'm sure a lot of you have questions about this.
Is there a way to pull a report that has like our job number and a job sharing partner's number?
Not for server pay.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
And I also noticed like when we have clients that are on batch billing, there's and the servers that are being paid on batch billing,
Okay.
they don't really print on a report.
They'll print on the report after you invoice the jobs. You have to invoice your client first. So you have to run the batch invoices first and then run the server pay.
Okay. So their pay would only show up right like after we run the batch billing. So if we pay on the 15th and the 30th, it's only going to show up on one report.
That is correct because it is
Okay.
dependent on, so on when you go to, so if you're running the server report classic, this is run by jobs invoice. The date range, it comes from the jobs that are invoiced. So if you have jobs that you have not invoiced yet because you haven't run the batch invoices, those jobs are not going to show up on the server report.
Okay.
But if you are using the server payables report,
Yes, that's what I
and
use.
if you're using the server payables report because you do record, you're recording your server payments and all of that, then you can check the box to include jobs that are not invoiced. And it will show up there and it'll tell you how much to pay the server. So you have that option, but it can only be done with the server payables report. And then when you record the payment, when you go to record payments, you have to remember to check the box include jobs not invoiced, because you are now recording payments for jobs that were not invoiced. So that way, when they get invoiced, they don't come on the server payables report because they were already paid for to the server. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that's what we typically do. I was just trying to kind of streamline our process because we pull the batch server pay. We pull an Excel spreadsheet every single day of the ones that were served the day prior, invoiced the day prior. So I was just trying to see if there was one report that could get all of it.
Like, what do you, I'm so good. Like, one report that you get all of it? Like, I don't understand. Like, the reports are telling you what to pay the server.
Right. I did not know about the on the server payables report to click the box that includes jobs not invoiced. So that's new
Mhm.
for me. So that's what I was trying to do, just kind of streamline our process a little bit.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So the servers report, so on the server payables report, if you do include jobs not invoiced, then you're gonna get every single job that is still, that has payments pending to the server through whatever date range that you run it through. And it will have the jobs that are invoiced and the ones that are not invoiced, and it will be all together in that report. So if that's
Perfect.
what you're looking for, then that's what you want to do. You want to do include
Yes.
jobs not invoiced. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? Did everybody been like understood the differences between the server report classic and server payables report? Okay, I'm actually surprised that none of you have any further questions. Do all of you use server pay? I'm assuming maybe. Do have veterans?
We're being a quiet group this time.
Yeah, I see. I see, I see. Is there any other questions that is not related to server pay that you guys have? Because I can answer those as well. And actually, I'm gonna stop the recording because I don't think you guys have any more server pay questions.
Right, sorry.
So,
I do have a question that one of my staff members are asking me to ask, which we run
okay.
into. Those are the jobs that got closed, which then causes the invoice to generate. And then for some reason they get reopened because either the client says, oh, I want you to go back and try another address or whatever. Those are not able to be ticked on the box to make sure that the server gets paid for it. Is that correct?
That is correct. So, but that is usually a problem on the server report classic because the server report classic is only ran by invoice date and it has a date range. Whereas the server payables report, it will always be through a date. So like if a new payable was created on the job, it will show up on the server payables report, not the classic one, because you're probably not going to include that invoice date in the server report classic for a job that was invoiced 2 months ago. Like you're not going to go there. But I will say this, and I've always said this, if it comes down to the point where you already closed the job, you're invoiced the job and everything, and your client is telling you, you know what, I need you to go to this address, create a new job for it. Honestly, it's a lot cleaner to do an like I was gonna say F3, but add a similar, like it's a lot easier to just do an add a similar on the job, do the address that, the brand new address, and treat it as a, as a brand new job for that address, because you already done the closing, the invoicing of that other job. So it's my advice to just do it at a similar and then handle it that way. And then that way it doesn't mess with server pay, server pay with the report classic. You're not really gonna miss it a whole lot, especially if you're not recording. If you're not recording server pay in PSD, you definitely have, I 100% recommend that you just create a brand new job. Don't reopen the old one, because now you're gonna have to remember to, when you run the server pay, like the server report classic, you gotta make sure that it includes that old invoice. That it's just too messy. It's just not worth it.
Thank you.
So, yeah. And one thing I will say, if you do use the feature of recording your server pay, when you go to accounting and you go to quick status summary, this right here, payments made, this is what you've paid your server. So you have information about what you've received in total of your, your revenue, and like, not revenue, your payments, like, that you've received, and then the payments that you've given out to your processor. So that's a good, like, accounting tool to see how much you've been paid and how much you're paying out to your processors. Okay.
I have another question.
And then you can access that quick status summary in WebPST. You can just go to reports again under accounting, and it's right here, quick status summary. Same window, as you can see, the exact same thing, just running. So, any other questions?
Yes. Does the link update when you change the amount on the invoice? As in, and that's, I'm gonna make this a twofold question. Well, actually, singular question. When you update the payment amount, say you've invoiced it, the closure email's gone out, it has the pay now link, it has the invoice PDF download, and we go, oh, we forgot to add another $5, and we add the extra $5. Is that pay now link gonna notice that? Or do we need to
Yes.
create another? Okay.
No, the payment link will automatically, the thing that is not gonna update is the PDF. So the PDF won't. But when they click, if they click on that pay after you've done that change, then they're gonna see, the most recent changes. But if they did pay prior to you making your change, then obviously it's not gonna be there.
Okay. Thank you.
But yeah, good question. So, all right, well, if I don't have any further questions on server pay or anything else, I can definitely let you guys go. Next month, just so you guys know, next month, the training is going to be, let me tell you guys. Next month, March. I can't believe we're already pretty much in March. It's crazy. Next month is going to be on the 27th as well. And it is going to be about job trading. So, just FYI. So if you trade, I think this could be a good class for you. And if you don't trade at all, this is definitely the class for you. So kind of trying to teach our users how to trade with other PSD users around the country. So, okay.
One last question. April, will you guys be having in-person training?
We are going to have an in-person training in April. I will be conducting it myself this year. I was unable to do so last year. Stop the recording.